This is the new dateless Omega Seamaster Professional 300. It is one of my favorite releases of 2024. Instead of the ceramic bezel and the zirconium dioxide dial, we have an aluminum bezel insert and an aluminum dial with a new wave pattern. Well, it's not really new. It's an old wave pattern. They incorporated into the new models. I borrowed this watch from my friends over at Martin Binder. So if you're interested in this watch, I'm going to go ahead and leave a link down in the description box below so you can reach out to my salesman, Tyler. And before we get started, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. It really does help the channel. All right, let's flip the camera and get into the specs. We have a case diameter of 42 millimeters, a lug to lug of 49.7 millimeters, a thickness of 13.8 millimeters, a lug width of 20 millimeters. On the mesh strap, it weighs in at 157 grams. This watch has a domed sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating on the inside only. It has 300 meters of water resistance thanks to that screw down crown at the 3 o'clock. Powering this watch is the Omega caliber 8806. It has 55 hours of power reserve. It is METAS certified and it has an accuracy of 0 to plus 5 seconds per day. And this watch retails for $6,500. Now, the first thing you're going to notice with this watch is that it is not as shiny as the original Seamaster. Like I said before, that watch has the ceramic bezel insert and the zirconium dioxide dial, so it's much more flashy. The waves are much more pronounced, and depending on what lighting situation you're in, it is going to reflect light a little bit more. Since this does have the aluminum bezel insert and aluminum dials, it's much more of a muted look. The aesthetic of this watch is more of a tool watch instead of a luxury diver. It reminds me of the Tudor Black Bay monochrome that I have reviewed here, so if you want to check that out, go ahead and click that card right there. But it offers more of a tool luxury watch instead of just a strict luxury watch like the original Omega Seamaster does. We have a very similar dial layout with the double baton at the 12 o'clock, batons at the 3, 6, and 9, and circular indices everywhere else. Above the handstake, we have the Omega logo, Omega and Seamaster Professional written under that. At the bottom, we have coaxial master chronometer, 300 meters / 1,000 feet. And just like the Black Bay monochrome, the color has been stripped away from this watch. There's no longer any red text on the dial, and the seconds hand no longer has a red accent. It is a pure tool watch through and through. Moving down to the case, we have a combination of brushed and polished surfaces. On the top and sides of the case, we have brushing, and then those lyre lugs and crown guard are in a high polish, which offers a good contrast against that muted dial and bezel insert. And the skeleton handset is something that we've seen before. It's personally grown on me a lot since I've bought my Seamaster, and I think it fits perfectly here. Covering the dial is the slightly domed sapphire crystal, which gives it a more vintage look. And the way the light refracts off the edges, it makes the dial appear more compact, if that makes any sense. It actually has a slimmer appearance on your wrist because of the way the light distorts on the edges of the crystal. We have a 120 click bezel here with scalloped edges, and while it doesn't have the best bezel action or grip, it looks the part for a luxury watch, and I'd rather have a good design over functionality when it comes to this piece. Since I'm not going to be diving with this watch specifically, I want it to look good over it functioning more like a tool. Now, one upgrade you can say Omega did here was fully lume the bezel. Everything on that bezel, from the numbers to the markers to the pip, is lumed, so it makes it feel a little bit more purposeful than the original Omega Seamaster, which only has a pip at the 60-minute marker. And at the 10 o'clock, we have the helium escape valve, which gives the watch its own silhouette. I've talked about this a number of different times in my other Seamaster reviews. I like the way it looks, and it's very unique. You're not going to see any other watch that has a helium escape valve at the 10 o'clock. Moving down to the Milanese bracelet, it measures in at 20 millimeters and tapers down to 18 millimeters at the end of the bracelet. We have a slightly redesigned deployant clasp with double push button action. And while there are no micro adjustment points on the buckle, theoretically there are micro adjustment holes that are spaced out 5 millimeters apart, so you can get a relatively good fit. Turning the watch over, we have Omega's display case back, which gives you full view of the caliber 8806. Obviously, the only difference between the 8806 and the 8800 is the lack of date complication. And unsurprisingly, this one does not have a ghost date position, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, let's go ahead and get into the pros and cons before I give you guys my final thoughts. And we'll start off with the cons, with the first con being, what's the first con? It's really hard to get a con out of this watch. As you guys know, I'm a very big fan of the Omega Seamaster. I think it fits great on my wrist. I have a 7.5-inch wrist, as you guys can see here. It fits great on my wrist. I think the size is great. Obviously, maybe at 42 millimeters, it could be slightly big for some people. Even the thickness at a little over 13.5 millimeters could maybe slim down a hair, maybe get it under that 13 millimeter mark. Really, I don't see an issue with this watch at all. Maybe you can say the pricing of this watch is a little bit weird since it does come in at around $6,500, where the original Omega Seamaster is at $5,900, and it comes with more upgraded material and a date complication. So I can see that argument. You're paying more money for less watch when you think about it like that. I think the Omega Seamaster is undervalued, and like that doesn't make any sense to me why it's only $5,900 when its nearest competitor, the Submariner, is pushing towards that $10K mark. At this $6,500 price point, I think it's a great buy, and like I said, really the only competitor is the Submariner. So yeah, it's really hard to find a fault with this watch. Like I said, maybe the thickness a little bit, but that comes with the coaxial escapement. Overall, I think this is a very well-designed watch, and I really don't have any other cons when it comes to this piece. All right, I guess that's enough of the cons. Let's move on over to the pros, with the first pro being that new muted look. Yes, I know in the past I've said I like the zirconium dioxide dial with the laser engraved waves, and this, not to say it's better, but it does have a different look, more of a muted look. Sometimes you can't even tell the waves are there and it looks like a flat black dial. And then if you catch the light in the right way, you can see the subtle waves on the dial. And then at the edge of the crystal, it kind of distorts the waves a little bit. It is really cool to see in the metal, and you might not appreciate it when you're just looking at pictures, but on the wrist, it looks awesome. And when it comes to the bezel insert, that is also a little bit more of a muted design. It's not going to reflect the light nearly as much as the ceramic, and this one does come with a fully lumed bezel. And while I'm not the biggest lume fanboy, I don't need fully lumed bezels on my watches. This is fully aluminum and gives off that tool watch vibe, so it makes sense to put it in this watch. Like I said, it's not my cup of tea, but some of you guys might like it, and I can fully appreciate that as well. My next pro is going to be the mesh bracelet, and while I don't think this is a permanent replacement for the Seamaster, I think they're in a transitional period, moving away from the original bracelet into something more modern, and this is a perfect stopgap between the two. I think it gives the Seamaster a different look, and it also gives Omega a little bit of time to redesign their new bracelet. My prediction is that in the next couple of years, we are going to see the date version of this watch on the new and improved Seamaster bracelet. Is it going to be an oyster style bracelet? Is it going to be a redesign of the tank tread bracelet? I have no idea what it's going to look like, but it is going to give Omega a little bit of time to redesign it and implement it to scale. So you heard the prediction here first, and hopefully they do it. My next pro is going to be the domed sapphire crystal they use on this watch. The first time I saw that crystal was on the No Time to Die watch, and they brought it over to the 60th anniversary James Bond watch, and now onto this watch. And not only do you get that vintage look, you have it made out of sapphire crystal, so you get that durability as well. The AR coating underneath works great, and overall I'm willing to sacrifice more AR for a better looking crystal. So there it is, the new Omega Seamaster, no date. Oh my God, that looks so good. It's weird because they downgraded in materials, but somehow they made the watch look almost better. Like obviously there is a little bit of differences between the two, which I will be making a comparison video between this Seamaster and my Seamaster, just to give you guys a little bit of a comparison between the two. Oh my God, it just looks so good. I can't wait to compare those two watches. Overall, I love this new Seamaster, and while they downgraded the materials from ceramic to aluminum, I think it just occupies a different space. It makes it more of a tool watch than a luxury watch. And obviously, you're probably not going to be diving with either of these watches, but I think it just gives off a little bit different aesthetic, and I would highly recommend for you to try on both of them to see which one you like more, because I'm looking between these two watches right now and I don't know which one I like better. Because while the differences are subtle, it makes a big deal with the presence on your wrist, and we'll get into that in that later video, so don't forget to subscribe. But overall, I think this watch fits great in the market. Like I said, the Submariner is its nearest competitor, and that one is $3-4 grand more expensive. So I think this is occupying that middle ground space where it's competing with the Submariner, but at a much cheaper price. And for those of you who have been following me for a while, you guys know that I love my Seamaster. I've had it for 3 years. There's nothing more I can say about it. It is a great watch, almost perfect watch. So if you guys are interested in this Omega, I'm going to leave the contact information to Martin Binder in my description box below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And since you guys are here, you guys might as well watch my Omega Seamaster review. Which one? Probably the one with the Artem strap, since that one is newer. It's a 2-year retrospective. Go ahead, click right there. Don't forget to click. Click it. Click it now. Go. Now. Go. Now.